So we're going to keep the day going, and I'm super excited. You notice that I've taken off my UCLA hat, and that is out of respect for my guest here, who I met years ago when I was at the other school down here, USC. At the time, she was doing really cool things in the gaming space. And lo and behold, now she's back in the gaming space. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tiffany Warren. I'm sorry, Tiffany Everett, because we're out here in public. This is Tiffany Everett. Tiffany is now handling social media for Madden. By the way, how many of you have ever played Madden? A fair amount. A fair amount. And notice some women in there too.
I know.
Right?
So
Legit,
excited.
right? So we're going to have a conversation about a lot of different things, right? We started off in this room earlier today talking about research, analytics, and insights. Now we're going to talk more about marketing, fans, and social, but we can also talk gaming and we can talk entertainment more generally because Tiffany has done it all, right? So first, thank you, Tiffany, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can you talk a little bit about what your current role is, just so the folks know?
Yeah, sure. So my title is Global Social Media Lead North American Football. Does not fit on a business card. And so my role is to lead social strategy for EA Sports titles that are related to North American football. So obviously not FIFA. So there's that confusion. People are like, oh, football. And then any future North American football titles that would come out. And so that includes the strategy around what we call more of our HD social channels. So what you probably are all following if you're following Madden on social, which is our Instagram, Twitter. I don't know if anybody's on Facebook, but there's a Facebook page. We do have a TikTok. And then what would be our MUT Ultimate Team, if you play Madden. You know, we specifically have Ultimate Team in the game. We have dedicated social channels for that. And then for our esports, so Madden Champion Series, the social channels that align with that. And then I have a member of my team that's also responsible for overseeing emerging platforms. So not really TikTok, so not really emerging, but constantly evolving. YouTube Shorts, PlayStation Tiles, so things that you might not even think as social, but like emerging platforms as well.
That is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So how do you manage, just to start off, each of these different platforms you're talking about has a different culture. So
it does.
And a different language often too. So how do you manage that piece of it?
Yeah, I have really, really smart people on my team. They know the game, they know the audience, they know the goal. And so as a manager over that team, that makes it a lot easier for me. But then we have people that, we have a great insights team that brings us the information. We look at the data on the back end. We're looking at what content does well on our social channels, what doesn't do well, and really trying to identify how we could be a resource to those Madden players. Plus, show intrigue and interest for people that have more of like football culture. So even if you're not a Madden player, the goal, if not now, hopefully soon, is that you discover our social channels and you're like, I'm going to follow them because they're putting out some cool stuff related to football and I like football.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, we are moving into this era where it's all entertainment, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The connection between entertainment, sports, gaming, that's what we pride ourselves on. A perfect example of that, it's been announced, but Madden is part of a Nickelodeon movie that'll be coming out at the end of November. The whole concept of it is the main character, a girl in the movie, is a Madden player, and she perfects her dad's game, who's a professional, he's supposed to be an Atlanta Falcons player, his game by playing Madden. So it's kind of like that tie-in. So you can be at the movie theater and then see a Madden integration. So it's that tie-in between entertainment, gaming, sport, again, that whole like football culture.
I love it. Now, earlier today, we had Ben Valenta. He's the Senior Vice President for Insights at Fox Sports, and he was talking about how, a couple things. First, we talked about Fandom itself and some of the things that they're learning, but then he also talked about how sports fandom is a positive thing from the perspective of people who are fans tend to read more, have more friends, engage more. I don't know if it's live longer, but like, basically that a lot of positive outcomes. And in fact, one including donating to charity, that people who are sports fans tend to donate more for charity, right?
Huge in gaming too.
Really?
That charity angle. Yeah, there are a lot of gamers that really big gamers that do charity specific live streams just to raise money while they're playing. That's really big in the gaming space.
And so, I'm thinking about, you just mentioned live streaming, this new environment. By the way, how many of you have ever used Twitch? See, we got the experts in here. Maybe I need to just change the questions or let you all ask the questions.
I hope you're all watching Good Morning Madden on Twitch. If you're not, come see me
Anybody?
after. I'll let you know the handle. It's in the mornings. Okay.
Anybody watching
Little
Good
shout
Morning? No, not yet. Not yet. We're going to get them on, though. We're going to get them on. All right. So we've kind of shifted now where gaming is so much more of a mainstream part of culture that when we talk about things, I'm thinking about Wreck-It Ralph and, all of the characters, Zangief and all this other stuff. But, you see more and more that when people talk about things in other parts of the culture, that gaming lexicon comes into play or game references come into play and so on. It's very, very different. And I'm wondering, looking at how fans and their experiences are kind of progressing across all these different areas, how do you actually keep track of what gamers, Madden fans, football fans actually want to see? And how to keep them, how do you get them to discover the next thing when now that all this stuff is so integrated, they're constantly being distracted by other stuff?
Yeah, so I said for the first part of that, how do we track it? Again, we have great teams that do insights and focus groups, and they're asking real life people, what are you playing? What do you like? What's working? What's not working? And so we really lean on them. But from the social side, engagement is a huge marker for anybody that works in social media. Engagement is on your content is huge to look at to see what is working and what isn't. And so my team will look frequently at those engagement numbers, decide what's working, what's not. I think you had another question about like how other people are using
just discovery.
Discovery,
right?
yeah.
There's so so
Yeah.
you're out here frothing up the conversation.
Yes.
But how do we know? How does the fan know where to find the next thing that's going to delight them?
That is a good question. I will say what we tried to do on our side as a company, as a brand, like with Madden, is put Madden in the places where we know our fans are. Again, from research pulled from insights. Perfect example, if anybody watched Thursday Night Football last night, Amazon Prime, if you watched all the way to the end, which was painful for me to see that it was way at the end, but Richard Sherman was a ratings adjuster for us. So for those not familiar with Madden, each week we put out updated ratings in the game for people that play based on real life plays during the week. And so we have a team that thought this would be a great place to have Madden show up, and Richard Sherman was a ratings adjuster, as well as Ocho Cinco, who does some stuff for us, to get people that are more football culture, right? So even if you're not really playing Madden, you may be watching the game. You may have an interest in, again, that football culture, and then you see Richard Sherman talking about Madden and an integration. And the goal, hopefully, is that may pique your interest, right? And then you may want to find out more about Madden. You may then want to go to social channels and see what's going on social channels. What kind of content are they putting out?
All right. Now, you've done a few different things in your career. Can you talk a little bit about some of the experiences that put you in a position to do this job?
Yeah, so this is obviously a gaming role. I will say when I graduated from USC a long time ago, we're not going to say the date, but I will say when I was in school, social media didn't exist. So that'll give you an idea. And now I'm leading social media for a large company. So when I first came out of college, I worked at Activision, another gaming publisher company, again, with no social media. So I was just sharing with Jay and some members of his team. At that time, live events were really big. And then the way you got the word out were like gaming magazines, right, and websites. And that was our world. And so I've worked 10 total E3s, if you're familiar with E3. It's the biggest gaming convention annually. So I've worked 10 of those over the span of my career. And that was it. Like, you got your stuff out at E3. That's where you announce stuff. Like, that was the big thing. Every year, everybody waited until E3. And then since then, I would say, so then I went over to Nike and worked in the sports world, which loved, and worked in LA, but it really was more on the celebrity side. Again, no social media. I used to clip magazines of music artists wearing Nikes and paste them into a book and make a photocopy and send that photocopy in an email to our executives. Like, that's how antiquated things were. But like that was the sports world, right? So when we had back then, when Kanye West was like just coming out, and Chris Brown, and they were wearing Nikes, and they were reaching out to us and saying, you know, can we, I'm going to be on the cover of like Vibe or like some, you know, whatever magazine, Complex, like, can we please have some Nikes and put it on there? I was clipping them. Like, literally, you guys, I was going to magazine places and buying magazines and clipping them. It's like unheard of to think about that.
Is there even a place to buy magazines now?
Probably not. Random newsstands?
Is there such thing as a
Where?
newsstand?
Wait, somebody knows. Oh, airport.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Right. That's really good, yeah. So that was like my first touch kind of like into sports. And then since then, I've worked on the agency side and the brand side. So on the agency side, I worked at Golan. If anyone's familiar, it's Nintendo's agency of record. And I led the social media and influencer departments there for Nintendo. Before they even had influencers, I was like going in and helping them build that, which was great, and launched the Nintendo Switch with creators. Let's see what else. So that's gaming. And then threaded throughout that, I always say I have like a half gaming, half entertainment background. So I first started working in social media when I was at Warner Brothers. And huge kudos to Warner Brothers. When social media really started coming out for brands, they embraced it. They staffed up, they put budget against it and resources. And I think Warner Brothers was one of the top companies to really leverage at that time. It was just Facebook, can you believe it? Facebook to really promote their titles.
Yeah, and it's crazy going back that far. There's so many people, and you will meet some of them today, who in the early days of digital entertainment, social media marketing, et cetera, really paved the way for everybody else. Now that everything is digital, it's different, right? In the sense that people are jumping in on new platforms where no one has any experience, but you do have OGs like Tiffany who were there when people didn't know what it was for yet.
Yeah, I always tell people, especially in interviews, if the internet went down, I could run a full campaign soup to nuts for you without any web integration. I could totally get the word out about your brand. I know how to make that happen. Hopefully that never happens.
I think you just gave some people, I saw like just for you to say if the internet went down, a couple people went like,
I know. Went away or so, you know,
Right.
I could run a full non-digital campaign for you and still reach our audience.
All right, so I did want to talk a little bit, given your experience, about measurement. Because in the olden days, two things. One, you couldn't measure as much. And two, you couldn't do as much with the information. One, because you couldn't get it as quickly. And two, because the way you reached consumers was different, right? And when we talk about gaming in particular, or even entertainment more generally, is basically a B2B business. And what I mean by that is that if you were going to watch a TV show or a movie, it had to be released in a movie theater or on home video, or it was going to be on some television network. So the studio itself wasn't necessarily selling something directly to you. And if it was a video game, it showed up in shrink wrap in a retailer. Again, not going directly to you. So there was always kind of a partnership and a collaboration when it came to how we were going to reach the end consumer. And some of the things that you could learn about folks, you couldn't do anything with it. Now we're in this different environment where I think you can do a lot more, and also throughout the year, not just before a release. Yeah. So one, what kinds of things are we measuring in the gaming space now? And then two, like, why does it matter? Like, what can we now do that we couldn't do before?
Yeah, I would say gaming overall, all gaming companies, publishers measure like daily active users like within the game, like how many people are actually playing your game daily, right? That's big and good to know. From the social standpoint, again, really pushing on engagement of the content we have. It's just a big indicator. Again, this is social wide. If you're posting, let's say, a trailer and it bombs and you're measuring KPIs that you've built apples to apples based on maybe a trailer from the previous year for the previous season or previous launch, kind of looking at that comparison and then deciding, for my team at least, what we'll do is we'll look at it, a piece of content. If it doesn't do as well, we'll decide, should we have made this in the first place? Maybe, maybe not. Or is there something we can do to pivot and make it better for the next launch or the next window? Yeah, there was a second part of that question that you had.
Well, no, I think you just answered
Okay.
both, because the question was, what do you do with it when you find that stuff out? And you just talked about some of
Yeah.
the decisions you might make, right?
Yep.
Now, I'm at the point in this conversation, especially since I know Tiffany so well, where I'm perfectly willing to have you all ask your own questions. Do you have any? Ooh, I see one over here.
Yeah, I had a question to build off of what you just said. What happens when, like, you launch a game and it bombs, realistically? Like,
I've never had that experience.
Madden.
Jay, sorry, will you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the question was, what do you do when your game bombs?
I think there's a second part.
yeah, so I was going to ask, like, how do you kind of react to that? And, like, you know, can you use that as an opportunity to, you know, shift things around to make it better?
How do you manage through a setback?
Yeah, I will say, I'll just speak for Madden. One of the great benefits of our game is we are a live service game, so we can update on a weekly basis, and we use things like our sentiment and our social media to really listen to our audience of things they like and things they don't like. And we have an amazing developer team that works on a weekly basis to make improvements and updates in the game, so it's ongoing. Other EA games, I believe like Apex Legends, other games that have more live service to them can do the same thing. So having worked on a game, gosh, let me see, let's just pick a game. I'll say like when we launched Nintendo, one of Nintendo's games, like Animal Crossing, just throw one out there. To be honest, like at that time, you really just have to do your best to engage the audience and then take that feedback and then make it better on the next rendition for something that doesn't have more of like a live service. But again, when you have that benefit, I think social is a really good through line, good game or not, because you continue that conversation with the audience. So can you put out content that's of interest to them? Can you have partnership opportunities that will interest them in the culture of that game? So I would say that. But I really haven't had a game that's bombed.
In the back. So how does your role change when you're dealing with partnerships as opposed to just first party stuff?
Yeah, so we have a full partnerships team that actually goes out and secures the partnerships. And then in a wonderful world across any company I've ever worked at, cross-functionally, we will be communicating, having frequent meetings, understanding what the terms of that partnership is, and then how we can promote in social. So I'll give you an example. So Nike is one of our partners. Recently, Nike Run Club did an integration with us where if you have the Nike Run Club app on your phone, you can connect it into the Madden game. And if you've run a certain amount of miles, I'm gonna say 4, it unlocks things in the game. So then, again, creating awareness about Madden with the Nike running audience, which is like, are they even interested? Who knows? Let's see, you know? There is a whole full team that's looking on the back end to see how that worked. I have no idea. But then we look at creating engaging assets for our Madden fans on social, right? To get them excited about Nike and running. Are Madden fans interested in Nike running? How can we create content to get them excited about that partnership? And we have more mainstream partnerships like Bleacher Report Gridiron. If you're on our social channels every week, we partner with them. They put out a poll where you can vote for someone to have their Madden rating increased. And so that is in partnership with us. We have meetings with them. Their audience then gets a piece of that, like Madden Gold, right? So they get to like have that Madden discussion with their audience and asset and integration. They get to vote, and then in the game the next week, that person's rating is increased. So we have like, and then I also mentioned the Amazon Prime Thursday Night Football integration that we have, and then we have athlete, partnerships that we do. So Chad Ochocinco is one of our ambassadors. He's amazing. He really advocates for the brand. He plays Madden. He loves Madden. Obviously, a legend player, a legend athlete. Has a lot of respect and awareness, I think. So it's how do we create content with him on his social channels to gain awareness. So just finding where that makes sense. This is like a great time to be in social media, having started in social media when there weren't as many features. So the ability to be able to do a collab on Instagram and a co-tweet is like amazing. So that you can reach two different audiences at the same time with a piece of content. Before you just have them share it or retweet it, which is fine, but that whole collab co-tweet really changed the game from a B2B side, I think, in helping businesses work together to reach consumers. Oh, boy.
You must have said something. Okay, here in the front.
So in your social media strategy, do you utilize any influencers beyond just like gamers or like traditional athletes?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So
yeah,
in the social media strategy, do you use influencers besides gamers?
Yes, great question. We have a dedicated team that does, so it's twofold. So we have someone that's responsible for more of our Madden like core creators, and then more lifestyle talent. If we have to do like lifestyle talent, and then somebody else that she's in charge across all EA for music. So like the Madden soundtrack, she's responsible for securing artists to be on the Madden soundtrack. Any music integrations. So really it's like a three-prong attack. And I will say across most companies, I've seen this. Yeah.
Okay, so a few more hands over here. Blue shirt.
I'd be curious to get your perspective on what you think the future of gaming with social media, in the sense that the way people interact with social media is becoming a lot more multidimensional and immersive, and that's probably also set for gaming. So I'm curious, like from your perspective at the strategic level, how much are you leaning into that, and like where you see maybe this interaction with Madden comes from in like 5 years, 7 years, and how that changes the fan experience.
I don't know if you're going to ask it.
I know, but I can't summarize. That was a long question. There's a lot of nested
What's the future
clauses.
of gaming as it relates to social? I'll just kind of say that. I mean, in a wonderful world, I would love to see more social integration in game. So that tie would be great. I'm very curious. So previous to Madden, I came from Facebook gaming. I have an interest in the metaverse. I'm terrified of it, but I have an interest. And so I'm curious to see what just different gaming developers and publishers do with that metaverse space in gaming. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go to this side and then back here. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi. I'd just like to know a bit more about how you deal with the challenges of sort of the moral challenge of content, especially when there's lots of channels out there that might have certain biases or specific views, and how we talked before about information versus entertainment. So if you could just expand, whether it's as a team or as individuals, how you overcome those moral challenges.
What do you mean by moral challenges specifically?
Because as individuals, you might have certain views, but I appreciate as an organisation, you might have to, whether it's a house view or set view, not want to necessarily disrupt too much if you have a specific view as an organisation. We know, as I said, certain channels might have biases, whether it's political or any other. How do you ensure that the content you put out, in certain instances, you might want to be disruptive, but how do you approach the moral challenge around content you put out?
There's a team for that too. There's a team for everything. So we do have a really strong communications team internally, and that's where social sits with the company that I'm at under communications and PR. And so a lot of conversations are had about what would be the company's direction about certain things. And for some games, like mine, I haven't seen it come up as an issue where there's something that we would have to communicate in game. For our gamers, they're really just, for Madden specific, they're really just worried about like how good the game is, things they want fixed, things they want changed. As a larger answer for EA, I would say there's teams that have conversations, especially with social. So I'll give you a example. We have a Slack chain for our EA social channels. If something happens, and I'm hoping this answers your question, if something happens in the world, if there is a high school shoot, like a mass shooting, for example, and we have a shooting game like Battlefield, we're all on a Slack chain, all the social leads, and there's a direct communication of like, FYI, this just happened, let's not post, and go quiet out of respect for the situation. And I've seen that everywhere I've worked in gaming, everywhere in gaming. I will say actually everywhere that I've worked on social. Usually there's a thread line, so everyone's in the loop of what's going on, and there's a better understanding of like, does this make sense for our audience? There was an instance when the Queen passed, and in that chain, everyone said, don't post. But that didn't make sense for our channel on Madden. That was also right when I think it was like the same day as NFL kickoff. And so that didn't make sense for our audience, right? So we decided to continue to post that day. But then channels like FIFA, who have more of an international presence, they chose a different approach. So just making sure that we're like all aligned and what makes sense for our specific audience.
Okay. In the back.
Yeah, you mentioned engagement on more of like the qualitative metrics that you use. I was curious how you lean on more qualitative social listening, and if there's been any insights that you actually kind of leverage in action based on learnings from social listening.
Yeah, we use different tools for social listening, in addition to my great team that actually is going through comments as well. And then we have a really close connection, like I said, with our dev team. And so we provide reporting to them based on what we're hearing and what we're listening to. They see obviously a lot of it on social channels. It's public. You can all see it too in the comments, good or bad. So we lean heavily on like the tools that like third-party tools to like pull that information and then make sure that we're like communicating sentiment reporting, whether that's up, down. If it's down, what can we do to change it? Is it something in game? Is it something we're communicating or not communicating? Let's say on social, do we need to, be more present, have a media presence at something coming up where we can have someone come speak?
You talked a lot about your audience, and I'm curious how you sort of balance the broad appeal of Madden against what I would call maybe the more traditional esports type community for some terms.
Yeah, so I mentioned, so we're broke out into different divisions. So like the broader interest of Madden and Madden players, we really communicate on social on, like I was saying, our HD channels. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, there's so many channels. Excuse me. And then we really speak to our more esports audience on our MCS channels. So it was just Twitter. And then we recently, in the last couple of month or so, launched an Instagram just because we saw the need to put out more content, more visual content for that specific audience. So speaking to them, I would say in their lanes where they know to go, so that esports audience knows they're going to get the updates there. We also have channels for like support, Madden Direct, like where you can go and get information if there's an issue in the game. So I think our team does a really good job of identifying who is in our audience, what they need, and then finding a way to communicate directly with them through those channels. Yes.
Time for one or two more. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes. I knew you were with Madden. I'm more a big fan of the NHL titles, and I noticed in your socials when it comes to coming up with a new title, new season, you bring EA tends to bring influencers, say to the studio, like to grab the game from the game
Yeah.
on their channel.
So where do the influencers come from?
Right through the front door. They just come running right in. I think it's twofold, I would say. One, we have great third-party agencies we lean on. And then two, it's really our jobs to know who these people are. So we should be on YouTube and Twitch and looking and seeing who's talking about our brand. And we have a full team dedicated to influencer, and that is what they do. They're watching the channels, and in relationship is huge on the influencer side. So if you're working with one or two influencers on something, I'll say, oh, did you know my friend XYZ is also a creator and loves Madden? Oh, cool. And then we go over here. Oh, wait, what, like 23 million subscribers? Like, yes, please. Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Would you, be interested in partnering with us? When pre-COVID, so when I was at Golan working on Nintendo and leading their influencer team, a big one was live space, doing stuff in the wild, we called it, which was big because it was twofold. So if we were able to bring influencers to like E3 or our own launch event, that also was an opportunity for fans to see them, which they loved, brought to you by, in essence, Nintendo. So a lot of different pieces, a lot of different ways. And then I've been to about 3 VidCons. If you've ever been to VidCon, bananas. But that's a great discovery zone too, of like, it is the Oscars of influencers, I would say, of like where you go to find influencers, engage. It's fandom in its biggest, I think, that I've seen.
All right, last question in the back here.
Hi, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Tiana. I'm a first-year MBA student at Anderson. You mentioned that charity events are pretty large for gamers, esports. I was wondering if you could share a bit more what you've seen, what's made those events successful and unsuccessful.
Yeah, so overall, just in some that I've seen in my career, when larger influencers get behind it, obviously, like they use their reach and it's really big. And when they use their platform in partnership with a brand, I think that helps as well. So the brand can promote. One of the creators that I love that does really well is Matt Pat. He's on Instagram. I mean, there's just so many of them in gaming. Markiplier. A lot of this is from my work that I did at Nintendo that are just passionate about the space. And some of them have a specific charity or vertical that they're interested in. And they just put this great talent and this great audience that they know they have, and they use it for good towards that. And their fans are dedicated and loyal. And so it's kind of like, if your person says, I'm putting myself out there, I need you to, donate, they do it, which is really, it's like amazing to see.
Okay, so speaking of amazing to see, it's been amazing to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so just logistically, the next session, there are 2 sessions, one down here, one upstairs. The one upstairs is going to be on gaming and esports. The one down here is going to be about sports and entertainment, but more specifically around gender parity. So we are going to exit the stage to make sure that the turnover happens the way it's supposed to. I know that some of you will stay down here, some of you will go upstairs, and then after that, there's lunch. So thank you, and let's keep it going.